into the early afternoon. Cold front swings through. We'll start off on the muggy side, but turn comfortable in the afternoon with a high of 78. For Tuesday night, we dry out, partly cloudy with a low of 60. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Alex Bielfeld on your WYSL stations.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us here on WYSL. We're live until 2 p.m. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or, of course, you can comment online, too. We are live on our Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, Free Solution group page, the Kevin Wilson page, and the Twitter account. Whichever one you're watching or listening on today, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for participating in the show. And again, number is 585-346-3000 if you want to call in. And we'll got a few different topics in mind today. One was a request from a listener on the Thursday show with Tim and I. And again, Tim and I do an online Thursday only show, or online only show on Thursday evenings around like 8:45, 9 p.m. One of the listeners asked about the burn pit bill. So I said I'd look into it. I saw that it didn't end up going through. So I was like, I'll look into what actually happened here. Why was this being held up, etc. We'll also talk about the a teacher certification initiative in Florida to allow veterans to just teach, and we'll talk about that and kind of the concept of certification in general. Plus, we got the Inflation Reduction Act in our Orwellian name, if there ever was one. Plus, federal government subsidies, all sorts of stuff. So we'll see how many of those we actually get to today. But again, give us a call, 585-346-3000 if you have something on your mind that you want to talk about too. But we'll start with the burn pit bill, which is called the Honoring Our Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxins Act. And basically it's like over in areas where service members are working, Afghanistan, Iraq, etc. One of the ways that they would dispose of waste is to burn it. And as it turns out, inhaling some of the fumes for that cause some problems for folks. And this bill is supposed to fund the health care of anyone who was injured by being around those fumes and inhaling those fumes from the burn pits, right? Like that's the rough idea. So Congress is going to commit money to specifically addressing that problem. It passed pretty overwhelmingly in the Senate in June, 84-14, passed in the House. And then there's supposed to be like a reconciliation effort, but that's kind of getting blocked right now. And that's what folks are talking about. So when you see folks talking about like, certain people are blocking this bill, it is specifically Pat Toomey and then 25 other Republicans kind of jumped on board with this. And I want to see like why. Like, did they have a good reason? Does this make sense? Because sometimes these media narratives can kind of run away with like, hey, here's a good cause. Here's something that we care about. Here's something that there's a bipartisan effort on. Was there a good reason for this? And the closest I can get to, like, is there a good reason for why Pat Toomey is holding this up is kind of maybe. I don't fully understand if the assertion he's making is right, but I'll kind of present that because, again, this is a listener request. And again, if you have those requests or something that you're interested in hearing us talk about on A Free Solution, me or Larry, make sure you reach out via the page, send us a message on A Free Solution. Of course, give us a call and participate in the show that way. But what Senator Toomey from Pennsylvania is saying is that the way the bill was structured, he wanted it to be amended because if it went through as is, and he had the same objection in June too, but he's saying that if it went through as is, that, as I understand it, some portion of the bill would kind of become a permanent part of like of mandatory funding from Congress, right? And that he wants it amended so it becomes part of discretionary spending, in that if the need for this program eventually wanes over time, that funding can be reduced or shifted elsewhere. And it presumably would eventually wane over time, although these programs, for better or worse, tend to stick around for a while. I think like the Civil War pensioner program was in place until like well into the 20th century. Again, some of these programs end up sticking around a while, again, with good intentions, but I understand the skepticism of, hey, we're going to create this thing and commit money to it and not allow Congress to change it, or at least make it very difficult for Congress to change it on a budget year basis. But other folks are kind of flipping that and saying like, okay, but we don't want this to fall out of the political spotlight, and suddenly it becomes a yearly effort for veterans who were injured by burn pits to have to fight to continue healthcare to, for something kind of caused by U.S. military policy, right? And then that's the tricky thing. Again, and Tim and I talked about this on Thursday, and I kind of talked about this on my last Monday show too. It's that when, as much as I am like a fiscal hawk, as much as I am someone who's like, you know what, we need to drastically reduce spending. We need to be really prudent in how we commit to new programs. I also understand that if Congress or the U.S. government, in most cases, since Congress hasn't declared war in quite a while, but if Congress, through an authorization of use of military force or anything else, commits members of the U.S. military to serve overseas, and in the process of whatever combat operations the U.S. military sends people to, they get injured in some way, physically, mentally, whatever, the U.S. government, I think, has an obligation to care for those folks. Because again, you're doing this on behalf of the U.S. government. You're doing things, if you're doing things in service of the country in a legitimate way, and you get injured, it is, I think, the moral obligation of Congress to fund efforts to help those folks heal as much as possible and to pay for their health care. Again, this is one of the few issues where I'm like, money does need to be committed to this. And my kind of libertarian take on that is, well, commit fewer people, commit to fewer conflicts abroad, and we will have less what's the word I'm looking for? Less a balance out there, less future obligations to pay for the care of veterans. If we make sure that we are not getting involved in unnecessary conflicts, we won't have the financial burden of taking care of people that our government sent into those conflicts. So this isn't a contradiction between my pretty ardently anti-war stance and us taking care of the people who were sent to. So again, this came out of a conversation of both a listener request and thinking about, again, what are the long-term implications, or what are the other things that I think Congressman Zeldin could have done in response to what happened with the guy who got drunk and tried to attack him with his cat keychain. And I'm sorry, like, I know, like, so we had a caller call in and say like it was an assault weapon. Like, yeah, you could have hurt someone with that in the same way that you could have hurt someone with a pen too. Like, it was serious. The dude's going to face some sort of consequences for this. But I think there's an opportunity to talk about like veterans issues in a way that could really be helpful to Lee Zeldin's campaign for governor. And it is a missed opportunity on his part. And so again, with this burn pit bill, I'm going to look into a little bit more. Again, I don't know how legit the concerns of Senator Toomey are. I'm trying to kind of work around. A bunch of folks are like, oh, it's not serious. It's not something you have to worry about. But the history of these types of programs, it's understandable that it ends up becoming something that like can never go away, even when the original need has passed for it. And you end up kind of inserting other unrelated programs into that committed spending, right? And what he's asserting is saying that the like $400 billion that's committed to this program could eventually start to tack on other unrelated things, and that in doing so, we end up with wasteful spending. Again, the counter side to that is Senator Toomey is introducing unnecessary barriers to getting veterans their care and creating more bureaucracy in terms of making sure that veterans can get their needs addressed from injuries caused by U.S. military policy. Again, the burn pits. So there's kind of my quick overview on that. Again, if you want to look into it, you want to read what this bill's about and see the conversation around it, against the honoring a promise to address Comprehensive Toxins Act. So there's a House version, a Senate version, and it's still, as last I looked, it's still kind of held up until this is something that the Senate can work out and conference. Again, whether or not there's going to be this amendment or not, I don't know. But when we come back, I'm going to talk about something else, actually, another kind of related veterans issue. But really, I want to talk about the certification part of it. It's teacher certifications in Florida, whether or not it's the right move for the state of Florida to waive those certifications for veterans. All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Give us a call if you want to participate. 585-346-3000, 585-346-3000. Be back in just a few.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hey, this is Kevin Wilson, host of A Free Solution. You ever needed a tool for just one project, but didn't want to spend the cash for something you'd use just once or twice? Well, there's a new tool library in Rochester where you can borrow just the thing you need instead of buying a new one. It's called the Tool Shed from the Southeast Area Coalition, and membership starts at just $25 a year. Use it for home projects or to support your business. Learn more and become a member at seektoolshed.org. That's SEAC toolshed.org.
Need to take care of a dental issue but don't have dental insurance? There's a special blessing for you on Saturday, August 13th called For the Love of God Dentistry. You can get an extraction, a tooth filled, or get a full dental cleaning for free. Be one of the first 150 guests at Grease Family Dentistry, and your choice of a filling, extraction, or cleaning is free. Registration starts at 8 a.m., so be there early and we'll give you a great reason to smile at the For the Love of God Dentistry event. Go to greasefamilydentistry.com for more information.
A free solution on the WYSL stations.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Thanks again for joining us. Again, we're live here on WYSL till 2 p.m. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or leave your comments online. Get anywhere streaming. The Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, the Kevin Wilson pages, wherever you are. Thank you for being here today. And so jumping to a slightly different topic, there's this news item that caught my eye about Florida allowing veterans to just become teachers, waiving their certification process and just do this. And it's like, all right, well, that's interesting. I don't know that that any given veteran is inherently qualified to teach in a classroom, but like maybe some of those skills are transferable. There's also this rumor going around that their spouses as well could just jump in and teach in Florida schools. So if allegedly if you're a spouse of a veteran, you could just go in and get a job in the classroom. That's not true at all. So if you're a spouse of a veteran, you can get like the $75 certificate application fee waived. But for veterans, they have their own like set of standards that they still have to meet to teach in a classroom that they've just as of July of this year, they just changed that. And so it's interesting. So like here's what it is. So July 1st, so started about a month ago, exactly a month ago. Veterans don't need a college degree to go and teach in Florida classrooms. So specifically, if you served in the U.S. military, and they aren't restricted as to what subjects they can teach. Before, there's a previous Florida law where veterans could be on an accelerated teaching path, but only for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So just those ones. And they need a master's to teach in high school. So this extends it, the grades that they can teach, and allows them to teach in kind of more classrooms across more subjects, but they still have to meet, if they have served in the military for 48 months with either an honorable or medical discharge, at least 60 credits of college credits with a 2.5 GPA or above. They have to have a passing score on a Florida subject area exam for bachelor level subjects, and they have to get a job, right? And then from there, they're supposed to kind of complete their degree, but this allows them to kind of go right into the classroom as long as they meet some of those basic requirements. They have to show some competency in the subject, and from there they can go on and complete their teaching certificate while actively teaching in the classroom. And some states, like depending on like how it is, they do have some structure where you don't need to necessarily jump into a classroom with a master's degree, and you can go and like complete your degree in the classroom, and you can do a few different things to get certified. But a lot of states, it is strict to get to the classroom. And what's interesting about this is, again, you have the Republicans who are jumping on this, like, oh, see, we're helping veterans, cool. We're doing this thing, and the Democrats who are freaking out, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, we can't have these potentially unqualified people in the classroom. How can Republicans deregulate this way? And it's just empty virtue signaling at the that could be harming our kids. Who are they letting again? The truth is actually kind of somewhere in between, and kind of here's my take on it, right? Like I don't mind this sort of structure, right? Like if you can meet some handful of basic requirements, but you don't have an advanced degree yet, but you can, especially in school districts and there's a lot of them out there who desperately need people to be in the classroom, and if you can meet some like basic level of competence, like you need some folks in there. Again, I'm not poo-pooing the jobs that teachers are doing. I'm pointing out that there's a lot of districts who are short on teachers right now because over the course of the pandemic, they got burnt out. So if that's the case, and you can meet some people who can, of course, meet the background check size, and they can, kind of understand some basic like classroom structure, why not get those folks in and then build up to that certification later on? Again, just because you go to school too doesn't mean that you're immediately coming in and you know exactly what you're going to do in any job. You're going to have to learn some of that on the job. And so this kind of seems like a good thing. My only criticism of it is actually that it is too limited in scope, and maybe it will expand. Maybe it was just, well, we can get this through for veterans now because that's what's that's what's politically palpable enough to be able to pass in Florida legislature. People be good enough with that because it helps veterans. Okay, cool. My criticism of those, we should be expanding this for more people. That there's a lot of certifications, not just for teachers too, that's kind of for a lot of careers. There's a lot of opportunity to learn on job, which you're going to have to do anyway. You come in, you lower the lift that's necessary to get started on the job. You have some level of supervision that exists in that job, which you're going to get anyway. It doesn't matter how many years you've spent in school. You're gonna need to have some sort of close supervision in that process anyway. And then over time, they will become again. This is a way to solve an employment shortage problem. Again, the disconnect between what public school systems, but also like generally many employers that require licenses need, but right now ends up becoming a pretty significant barrier for people without a lot of resources to go and do. Again, can you go and commit to, a 4 to 6 year degree while not working? Not everyone can do that. I was able to do that. I know a lot of people do, and you take on a whole bunch of loans, and gosh darn it, when they turn those back on, I'm gonna have to pay a bunch of money again. I'm not going to pay them if there's 0 interest right now. It doesn't make any sense, and neither do a lot of people. And hey, who knows? Maybe Joe Biden will forgive them, and you, the listeners, get to pay for my student loans. I don't take any glee in that, and I've talked about how that's probably a bad thing from a lot of perspectives. Most importantly, financial responsibility perspective and keeping college costs down. But anyway, the point of this is that, again, not everyone can go and get that college degree, or not everyone thinks it's financially responsible to get that degree. But if you could go and work on the job and you could learn your trade, whether it's teaching or anything else that requires a license and certification, with people who are trained to kind of oversee that process and help you learn as you're doing it, that solves a lot of issues in a lot of industries, particularly teaching, which, again, I'm generally in favor of when my son comes of age, sending him to like a homeschool pod. But I recognize that that's not an option for everyone. I recognize that most people really do want to try to find ways to fix and make the public school system better. And that, particularly in the city of Rochester, a lot of folks are either just not able to kind of see outside of that vision, or or there's political barriers to people being able to find alternatives to education. Okay, so like, let's fix the problem at hand. Could that be a solution here in New York too? Again, I don't think it should be limited to just veterans. I get why that is politically popular, but it should be something that's more open to everybody. And would love to hear folks' thoughts on this. I know many folks who are in the professions, when I talk about licensing like that, like, no way we can lower the standards, no way we can make it easier for people to get into this. And they say that either because they're genuinely worried about the quality that could the lowering of quality of people that could get through that program when you reduce the rigor, but they're also, in some cases, worried about worried about adding new competition into the space. But it sounds like we have a call on the line. Is it Hale from Canisius? Al, I'm sorry. Al, what's on your mind? Welcome to A Free Solution.
Hey, I don't know if you can tell me or not, or let me tell this or not, but tonight down at the Canisius Lake Sportsman's Club, Marjorie Burns is going to be there at 7 o'clock to explain everything about Governor Hochul's anti-gun bill.
Oh, that's good to know. And Marjorie Burns is the assemblywoman from. Can you remind me which district again? Do you know?
Well, mine for one.
Yours, yeah, but like, I know Avon area and
yes, it's
chunks
Marjorie,
of Livingston County.
not Margaret. Well, they call her Marge. Let's put it that way.
Yep. So so that's good. And can you say the details of that again too?
That's all there is. Sportsman's Club on Stone Hill Road, the Canisius Lake Sportsman's Club on Stone Hill Road. Just not even a quarter mile east of the light in Lakeville. And Marjorie Burns will be there to explain the gun laws that Governor Hochul just, shoved down our throat.
Yeah. And I mean, it'd be good to know the details. Again, I know she's an assemblywoman who's definitely thinking about that stuff. And I also know that there are quite a few lawsuits out there too, and hopefully they can at least chip away at the worst parts of those laws.
Right. I mean, one thing in particular, they tell me, if you have a group of 12 people or more, you cannot have a gun there. Now, how do you have a trap league where you have upwards of 100 shooters showing up on a Saturday morning from 8 to 1 o'clock? It's going to do away with trap shooting leagues if she has her way.
Wow. Now, it sounds like a violation of the right to assembly.
You betcha.
Yeah, no, oh man,
this violation of the Second Amendment is the worst part.
Yeah, no, both really. It's the law is so like cartoonishly bad. It's amazing that like they really just went for it. They're just like, we're gonna make this as bad as possible, violate as many rights as possible, and see what we can get through, and know that they'll be able to enforce it before the court system can pick up on it, unless they get an injunction to stop it ahead of time.
Yeah.
But hey, Al, thank you for calling in, and letting listeners know about this too. We're going to be back more here on the Free Solution in just a few minutes. Give us a call if you want to participate. 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We'll be back on a Free Solution in just a few minutes.
Celebrating 35 years.
WYSL.
AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the News 10 NBC forecast on WYSL. For tonight, a mild and muggy night expected, low of 68. Mostly cloudy skies with a chance for an isolated shower or rumble of thunder as a cold front approaches. We're going to see the chance for a shower throughout the morning hours on Tuesday and into the early afternoon. Cold front swings through. We'll start off on the muggy side but turn comfortable in the afternoon with a high of 78. For Tuesday night, we dry out, partly cloudy with a low of 60. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Alex Bielfeld on your WYSL stations.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
It's summer, and Springwater Amish Workshop has a wide selection of buildings to suit your every need. You choose style, color, size, exterior product, placement of windows and doors to make it uniquely yours. Springwater Amish sheds have the best manufacturer's warranty in the business. American-made, Amish-built, delivered to your prepared site within a 40-mile radius of Springwater. When the delivery people leave, your new building is ready to be used. Get a 3% discount when you pay by check, or you can rent to own with no credit check. Summer's in full swing. Now's the time to relax outdoors in a glider, deck chair, swing, or Adirondack chair, or play cards around the picnic table. There's premium quality and selection in stock, made from vinyl, yellow pressure-treated pine, or finished hardwood. A great yard starts at Springwater Amish Workshop. The showroom's full. They're ready to bargain. If you love wind chimes, choose from a full selection with melodic tone. From buildings to gazebos, lighthouses to wind chimes, Springwater Amish Workshop has it all. 7936 Mill Street, Springwater. Open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, Saturday 9 to 3.
WYSL.
On June 7th, Compass Care's pro-life medical office in Buffalo was the victim of a brutal arson attack perpetrated by pro-abortion terrorist group Jane's Revenge. Compass Care rebuilt and has scheduled a grand opening and ribbon-cutting ceremony for Monday, August 1st at 11:30 at 1230 Eggert Road. Compass Care has extended an olive branch to the outspoken adversaries of pro-life pregnancy centers, New York Governor Kathy Hochul and Attorney General Letitia James, to meet the people and experience firsthand how the organization provides for the unmet health and resource needs of women considering abortion. At the press conference, Compass Care CEO Reverend Jim Harden is expected to give an update on the status of the investigation of the arson attack and to deliver a message to the pro-abortion terrorist group Jane's Revenge and their comrades. This RealAbortionNews.com update is sponsored by Compass Care.
Here's a special message for veterans and surviving spouses from Alpine Manor. You may qualify for a special benefit from the VA after applying for funds received for aid and attendance. Your stay at Alpine Manor could be as low as $600 per month. Be sure to call for details. At Alpine Manor, their pride is personalized care for seniors who are not yet ready for a nursing home. There are supervised activities and medications, full laundry and housekeeping services, 3 dietary-approved home-cooked meals, and a bedtime snack, all provided in immaculate surroundings. Be sure to call for details on this new program for the veteran in your family. Keep the golden years carefree years at Alpine Manor, nestled in the picturesque rolling hills east of 390 in Livingston County, just 20 minutes from Rochester. New York State Health Department license. Call 346-5880. That's 346-5880 for a no-obligation tour or information, or visit alpinemanor.com.
WYSL.
Hey, Deb, why don't we take the kids to the Lima Crossroads Festival? All the rides are free, and you know how Justin loves the bounce house.
Great idea, Mike. Brooke is all about the pony rides and petting zoo. I'll put it on the calendar.
Perfect. The rides and attractions, even that crazy bed race, are on Saturday, August 6th and Sunday, August 7th. All free. We can get more details at limafest.org.
A free solution on the WYSL stations.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Willis, your host today. Thank you so much for joining us here on WYSL. We're live until 2 p.m. And, of course, online on the Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, Free Solution group, and the Kevin Wilson Facebook page and Twitter account. Thanks, everyone, for listening today. And it sounds like we have another caller on the line, Armando from Canandaigua. What's on your mind, sir?
No, Kevin, I wanted to tell you that program that you mentioned, that's how I got to be a certified teacher. Roberts Wesleyan back in early 2000 had a program that was backed through our tax dollars, and they were looking for adult teachers in the city of Rochester at the time. I was able to start classes in June at Roberts Wesleyan at age 48, start teaching in September at Rochester City School District. I worked there for 12 years and retired at age 60 because they wanted to move me for a third time within 3 years. So, but it worked great because we were in the classroom meeting students at the high school level every day. And we were also meeting 2 days a week at Roberts Wesleyan to talk about theory and education, and then also how that works in the classroom. We were a cohort of 12 adults. Everybody came from other jobs, wanted to do a career change, and many of them are still in the system over at the city school district. And I thought that it was a great program.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great point. Again, and what I was saying is like this sort of thing isn't like unheard of, where we take folks who aren't necessarily in the teaching field and we start getting them into the classroom right away. And a lot of times, again, having a kind of long-term teacher in that classroom space is better than like the alternative of short-term subs or being short-staffed, which is again something many districts are facing right now. And so it's not unheard of. And I think the people who are panicking about what they're doing in Florida may be a bit overreacting a bit, because this is something that's been tried before in different ways, like as you mentioned.
Yeah, so, and again, it worked well. We were able to take our everyday classroom experiences into the college level. We all earned master's degrees in education. We all came from different career backgrounds. I was a small business owner that hired a lot of high school students. So I had hands-on experience working with high school age young adults and applied that experience to the classroom. And I was teaching global history, U.S. history, and mostly to special education students.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those programs existed. I think at the time it was George Bush, the son, through the Department of Education, that initiated it because they couldn't get adults in the classroom to teach young teenagers with much success.
Right.
There was a lot of conflict involved. A lot of students came from bad families, bad neighborhoods. but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great experience. I actually coached the wrestling team from that career as well, and that helped a lot. So it can be done.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's I appreciate you calling in, Armando, and sharing that experience. And again, just we get, I think, so locked into our ways of doing things, like especially from a government perspective, that like you can't think of like, hey, maybe there's a better way to do this, to bring in adults, like Armando here, who had had other experience working with teenagers before, who have had careers in other places, who are willing to go into the classrooms, which again in the city school district can be a rough place sometimes, and in trying to create those opportunities and create new paths for people to get there is something that we should be looking more at. But again, if we think too narrowly about this, and we stifle ourselves so much, you end up with not being able to fill those positions. You end up with a market for employment that is way short staffed. And that's a problem that a lot of places are challenged with. I have no idea if this program like this still exists. Like, again, I remember, hearing about folks who've done something similar to this before. I don't know any of the specific programs there, but again, Armando, appreciate the call on this, and sharing your experience here, because it is possible. Licensing and education, and getting people in the classrooms, it is possible to think about this in both new ways and in old ways too. Again, this isn't necessarily untrodden ground. There we can look at other programs that have been successful and think, okay, are we able to get veterans who might not even have a college degree, which is the case of the Florida program, into the classroom? As long as we get them teaching, we fill the space. They're competent enough to be in that classroom. Again, they pass a background check and everything, of course. As long as they're able to start doing that, start getting that experience and learn along the way, that could be a good model of meeting employment needs across many industries, but particularly in education, where they're struggling right now. So yeah, I'm gonna appreciate the call, Marta, and I'm gonna shift topics a little bit. I feel like I said my piece on this thing happening down in Florida, and part of the freak out about this is partially because Ron DeSantis is doing it, and I'm not exactly a fan, but he's turning into one of those guys where he has a lot of bad policy, but also everything he does elicits such a freak out that it takes me a while to figure out if people are mad with legitimate reason, or they're mad because he's a new boogeyman of the left. And it's always hard to tell which is which. I got to sort through the media noise to try to get there. And in this one, I think that Florida's right to go this direction, and I'd like to see more of it, and in New York State too. Again, give us a call if you want to participate in the show. Leave any other thoughts on this issue. 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Again, we're live till 2 p.m. And but before that, though, I want to get to the Orwellian Inflation Reduction Act. Gosh, you know when something's named like this, like when Congress comes up with these names, they're just like, don't trust what's on the label. Like, don't trust what's on the cover there, because gosh, is it actually going to reduce inflation? Well, maybe in the sense that if it ends up stifling the economy enough, like it will actually reduce inflation. We'll see, but unlikely. The CBO and several other like rating agencies, like, it's probably not going to have an impact on inflation, and even then, probably not for a while. It may be a few years from now. I mean, one of the things that like it would do that's interesting is it tries to reduce the annual deficit and eventually reduce the national debt. Gonna take a few years, but it's gonna reduce future deficits by $247 billion over a decade. So it takes a decade to reduce it by that amount. But also it's going to spend just bucket loads of new money on environmental stuff, climate change initiatives, and how they hope to reduce that deficit is mostly by raising taxes. Now, again, they'll tell you like it's not going to raise taxes on, the middle class, blah blah blah. Don't nonsense. It is almost certainly going to raise taxes on middle class households. It's just a matter of how much. They'll always say, "Oh, we're gonna raise taxes just on the richest." We'll just add a little bit more money to the marginal income that they're making over a certain amount, capital gain tax, blah blah blah. All these different mechanisms for which the left says that they can pay for these bills, but it doesn't take into consideration how much that will reduce like the overall productivity of the economy. And again, it might reduce inflation in the sense that it will slow down economic activity, at least in some parts of the US, and impose new taxes on different corporations. Like there's big new taxes on manufacturing. They're going to be imposed here. Weirdly enough, too, on an industry like a tech industry, that there's another bill that we're subsidizing right now too. The CHIPS Act, which subsidizes computer chip manufacturing in the United States, even though it's not really necessary. This bill's a mess. Again, anytime a bill like says they're going to do something like Inflation Reduction Act, just be skeptical. I don't think it's going to do that. It's not going to do that thing. It's just a nice pretty label for Chuck Schumer to be able to sell it, and to think that someone is on your side. He's on the case. He is solving the problem. Nope, don't think so. Thanks again for joining us here on Free Solution. Again, if you want to participate in the show, give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Hey, this is Kevin Wilson, host of A Free Solution. You ever need a tool for just one project, but didn't want to spend the cash for something you'd use just once or twice? Well, there's a new tool library in Rochester where you can borrow just the thing you need instead of buying a new one. It's called the Tool Shed from the Southeast Area Coalition, and membership starts at just $25 a year. Use it for home projects or to support your business. Learn more and become a member at seektoolshed.org. That's SEAC toolshed.org.
Need to take care of a dental issue but don't have dental insurance? There's a special blessing for you on Saturday, August 13th, called For the Love of God Dentistry. You can get an extraction, a tooth filled, or get a full dental cleaning for free. Be one of the first 150 guests at Grease Family Dentistry, and your choice of a filling, extraction, or cleaning is free. Registration starts at 8 a.m., so be there early and we'll give you a great reason to smile at the For the Love of God Dentistry event. Go to greasefamilydentistry.com for more information.
A Free Solution on the WYSL stations.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, host today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're live here on WYSL until 2 p.m. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000 if you want to participate in the show, or leave your comments online too. And we have a comment from Matthew on Facebook, or a question rather. He says, is any one party pushing for a flat tax anymore? I don't know about the party. I know there are certainly people who advocate for a flat tax, right? So, get just a real quick overview, difference between flat tax and taxation system we have right now. We have progressive taxation, which just means that if you are making more money, the additional money that you make is taxed at a higher rate. So I don't remember what the exact rates are, but it's like, okay, you're taxed at a certain rate on your first $50,000, and then that additional $50,000 above that's taxed at a different rate, and then the next $100,000 or whatever it is, is taxed at like a different rate above that. Like, so like say the first 50K is taxed at 0, and then the next is taxed at 10, and then the next is taxed at 15. Again, that's not the exact rate, but that's kind of how it works generally, in that the more money you make, it doesn't change the taxation of your entire income, only that additional income. And then you get to a point where you're making a whole bunch of money, where that money is taxed, at a massive percentage. So and at one point in time was taxed close to 100% in the 50s. The progressives like to say that. So there's no real incentive there and beyond a certain point, or at least to make income beyond a certain point. So you put that money into wealth. So things like stocks, which is not taxed quite the same way. It's only taxed on a capital gains rate if you pull that money out and it becomes liquid again, but it's not taxed in of itself. So that's why when people like Elizabeth Warren are like, oh, well, Jeff Bezos has all this money, Elon Musk has all this money, has all this wealth, and they're going on about how much wealth they have. There are ways in which that gives them huge advantages, obviously, but it's not quite like they have a Scrooge McDuck pile in their basement that they can go and pull from it at any time. And it's also not like they're making that exact money every year. That money is only valuable so long as the things it's invested in, like say their companies, have worth. If Tesla stock suddenly drops to nothing overnight, Elon Musk is going to lose most of his wealth, right? That's kind of how that works. Now, flat tax though just says, okay, instead of that progressive system of taxation that I described, it's everyone gets taxed at the exact same rate. So we just say, okay, all of your income, no matter what, is taxed at 20%, right? Just whatever that number is. So you make $50,000, IRS takes 10% of that. They or 20% of that. So they take $10,000. You make $100,000, IRS can take $20,000 out of that. You make $1 million, they're going to take $200,000 out of that. So it's the same rate. So folks who advocate for a flat tax would say, like, well, that's fair. It's consistent. You're not punishing people as they make more wealth. It's just the same amount all the way across the board. Progressives say, well, that person making $50,000 really needs that $20,000 a lot more than the person making $1 million needs that $200,000. That additional money being taken out at that higher income level, they would argue, is less harmful than someone making under 50K or someone making 30K and having 20% of that taken away, right? So again, and then they're very various versions of that flat tax, but that's generally. So again, there are definitely flat tax groups out there who are advocating for that thing, and believe that is a fair proposition. I'm not sure that I totally agree with that. I get it, but I'm not sure I totally agree with that, kind of for that reason that taking away 20% of my income when I'm only making a little bit kind of matters a lot more. I would rather just kind of see taxes drastically reduced all across the board, or all together if possible. I'm not in favor of like a VAT tax or anything too, which is basically like a national sales tax type of thing. Yeah, so I know, again, if you're having a flat tax, to me, like you're still taking money. And that still hurts, especially if you're kind of close to the poverty line. There should be a way to at least make that just a tiny bit easier for folks who are not making much at all. I get the fairness thing, but it should be easier for folks who aren't making much at all, because that 20% matters a lot when you're trying to pay your rent. Anyway, that was my intent of what to talk about. But speaking of again, if you have any tax, it doesn't matter where you have flat tax, whatever, the government's still going to take that money and give it to folks who may or may not need it and or deserve it. And sort of drives me nuts about the CHIPS Act. So the American government and lots of folks in Congress are worried. We don't have enough microchips, right? And so much of our microchip production is, or at least where the U.S. sources those microchips are tied up in places like Taiwan, where there's a legitimate worry of that supply getting cut off one day because of geopolitical issues. I mean, my goodness, we have Nancy Pelosi sounds like maybe going over there, and the Chinese government is pretty unhappy about that because they like to pretend that Taiwan is still a part of communist China, whereas anyone who's not trying to be diplomatically polite about it sees that they operate as essentially a separate country. But so that's it is a worry of like, okay, where are we going to supply this stuff? Now, that being said, there were already companies like Intel and others who were making investments for domestic chip manufacturing, who already saw a market opportunity to reshore some of those chip manufacturing capabilities, both just from a geopolitical situational point of view, but also from a, it's easier to get the expertise to build that stuff here, and it's worth the investment to do that. And they were doing all that stuff anyway. And instead, we got, even though a lot of companies are already moving in that direction anyway, we have this CHIPS Act, which will end up subsidizing the heck out of the industry, while also requiring more labor reforms, more regulations. Again, it's meant to kind of combat the fear that we're overly reliant on places like Taiwan and also China, which there's kind of, again, geopolitical concerns there, both from a security perspective and from a just a capability perspective. What happens when there's disruptions to the supply chain again, and we end up with a whole bunch of cars who can't get off the lot because they don't have the chips necessary to actually function, right? So all these things come to mind, and you end up with this bill that isn't necessary, in the sense that these things will already happen within market forces, but government feels that it needs to be the one getting credit for solving the problem. The industries themselves are absolutely happy to take the subsidies. And they'll start to argue that it's necessary and stuff. And again, we'll get to a point where, and we already are at that point in so many industries, where there's a level of, and I used this phrase on Thursday, a level of learned helplessness, where so many industries feel like without the government jumping in and providing those subsidies and providing that support, that they can operate. They're like, well, the other countries are doing this, and we've always done it this way, blah, blah, blah. And yet you can operate without these massive government subsidies, but it ends up being a double-edged sword, right? Okay, sure, you get these subsidies, but every time money comes from the government, it comes with strings attached. It comes with additional labor regulations. It comes with additional environmental regulations. It comes with like other sorts of requirements that end up making it more difficult for your industry to thrive. And again, the companies that are big enough to already handle this is not going to really matter, because they have the resources to handle it. And even if they make less money in the short term, they're still going to be the biggest player in the market because other competitors can't emerge. That's what always happens in these situations. So anyway, thanks so much for listening today. And I'll get to one last comment from Matthew. Says the flat tax eliminates the exemptions, and flat tax could start at number above zero. That is 25,000. Okay, yeah, fair point, Matthew. So thanks for jumping in with that comment. I wanted to make sure I got to that before I go. Thanks so much for listening today, folks. So I will be back on Wednesday. Have a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful week, folks.